When things go well for Spider-Man, they often don't go so well for Peter Parker, especially when it comes to his love life. And while Peter has had a few of his own not so great moments, his many girlfriends have done him wrong on a few occasions as well. Now, one of Peter Parker's biggest red flags when it comes to the dating scene is the fact that he just mysteriously has to run off at the last second, or miss countless dates, or seems really distracted, or just not as invested as a typical romantic partner should be. And well, that's because he's Spider-Man. Having a dual life is never going to be easy on romantic relationships. While Peter has managed to make it work from time to time, especially when he actually tells his partners about the fact that he is Spider-Man, he has had multiple people dump him for it. This is first up on our list today because honestly, it's extremely fair for people to leave him for seeming to not be invested and present in his relationships, or even leave him for being a vigilante. Sissy Ironwood, Betty Brant, Deborah Whitman to a degree, and even Carly Cooper just couldn't really deal with Peter having such a busy life, and for Carly, it was him actually being Spider-Man that did it. But while Peter has had many love interests, Gwen Stacy is arguably Peter Parker's true greatest love. Before even MJ, Gwen and Peter shared a very, very real love that was viciously taken away in a story so iconic that Marvel has never really brought Gwen Stacy back. But they sure as heck used Gwen to mess with Peter many a times. For example, 2016/2017's Dead No More: The Clone Conspiracy. In this story, a masked man initially thought to be the Jackal recruits villains to work for him by reuniting them with lost loved ones who he has made by cloning. The Jackal clones Gwen Stacy and brings her on board with his plans by telling her that she and the others aren't clones at all, but rather the originals harvested from remains, which is why they're able to remember everything from their previous life. Now, Gwen Clone is obviously hesitant until convinced by seeing her reanimated father again. Gwen initially agrees to work with the Jackal, and though she does later turn against him, her siding with him in the first place set in motion a lot of eventual pain and heartbreak, and that lands Clone Gwen on the naughty list of people that hurt Peter Parker. But while Gwen is one of Peter's first real loves, Lian Tang is a more recent girlfriend of Spider-Man. After Peter Parker regained control of his body from Otto Octavius during the Superior Spider-Man arc, Peter helped raise Parker Industries into a powerhouse company, and he began operating out of his base in Shanghai, where he started dating a scientific designer named Lian Tang. Lian even helped to create the Spider-Mobile for Spider-Man, but alas, this romance still fell in the end, and it was because it was eventually revealed that she was covertly working for the villain Scorpio, who led the evil organization Zodiac, providing him with Parker Industries security codes in exchange for medication for her sick mother's treatments. When Scorpio threatened to have her disposed of as a loose end, she offered to bring Spider-Man to the pearly gates for Scorpio. She attempted to kill Spider-Man during Shen Quango's award ceremony, but she couldn't actually go through with it. Spider-Man did eventually forgive Lian for her betrayal, and she became his assistant as Spider Rider near the fall of Parker Industries, but there was no recovering the romantic relationship. Now, after Mephisto erased Peter's marriage to Mary Jane in that storyline, which we won't talk about, Peter had a new life and ended up being roommates with one Vin Gonzalez, a police officer who was partners with Carly Cooper, who is another one of Peter's eventual short-lived relationships. But before that even happened, there was Michelle Gonzalez. Michelle was Vin's sister, and even though she and Parker did not like each other at first, like at all, and Michelle was initially super critical of Peter Parker, they started to date anyways after a pretty drunken one-night stand in Amazing Spider-Man number 601, and thanks to the villain Chameleon orchestrating some events behind the scenes. She then surprisingly became extremely overpossessive of Peter until Chameleon showed up and came between them, causing more problems until Michelle finally left for Chicago in a blaze of glory. Now, I mentioned Deborah Whitman in the first point, but there's so much more to Deborah's story. Peter met Deborah Whitman when he was a teaching assistant at Empire State University, and she was a secretary. But the relationship really became more frequent in Spectacular Spider-Man, where she and Peter began to date after issue number 46. Now, due to Deborah actually having a husband who was far from good to her, plus some mental instability that she was going through, and delusions of Peter being Spider-Man, which he was, Peter eventually helped her by dressing up as Spider-Man, and she ended up divorcing her husband and leaving Peter and New York for a better life. Now, fast forward to the aftermath of Peter Parker revealing his secret identity to the world during Civil War, and Deborah, she returns having written a new tell-all book titled, quote, Two-Faced: How Spider-Man Ruined My Life. Now, even though she seemed discouraged about the title and tone of the book, she's still committed to a book signing. Deborah eventually revealed to Betty Brant that the editors had forced her to exaggerate the mental damage that Peter had done to her in order to make for a better book. On top of that, Deborah's mother had been sick and the medical bills were far more than she could pay for, so when the Daily Bugle dug up all of Peter Parker's past relationships to get some dirt on him, she just jumped on the chance to write the book. It's just not a very nice thing to do, like, at all. It's pretty easy to say that Felicia Hardy, the sometimes hero, mainly villain known as Black Cat, is one of Peter Parker's most toxic relationships in so many different ways. But despite that, it's actually quite clear that Felicia really did have strong feelings for Peter, or I should say for Spider-Man. So much so that she was willing to literally attack Mary Jane Watson. Following Felicia breaking off her relationship with Peter and running off to Europe, she returns and is eventually informed by Venom that Peter and MJ are now married and living together. So what does she do? Full of jealous rage, she decides that she's going to get revenge on the pair of them by first of all dating Peter's friend Flash Thompson, trying to make Peter jealous, but then she breaks into their new Soho apartment and literally attacks MJ, threatening her and being an absolute nutter. Eventually, Felicia would repair her relationship with both Peter and MJ, but man, she was insane. But on the topic of Black Cat, her and Spider-Man did actually have a few romantic run-ins before they fully started a relationship and partnership in the Spectacular Spider-Man number 75. The only problem was this was strictly between Black Cat and Spidey, not Black Cat and Peter. Spider-Man met Felicia's mother and was introduced as Felicia's boyfriend. However, Spider-Man never revealed his secret identity to his girlfriend, and it was also kind of clear that Black Cat was really only attracted to Spider-Man while he knew pretty much everything about her. As the relationship progressed, naturally, she became more curious about the man underneath the mask. He eventually revealed his backstory, origins, and motivations to Black Cat before finally unmasking himself in the Spectacular Spider-Man number 87. And this girl was straight up repulsed by him. She did not love this nerdy kid Peter Parker. She just loved the heroic Spider-Man. This ultimately led Peter to dump Black Cat in the Spectacular Spider-Man number 100. But there's another side to that story which leads to my next point. Now, 2 issues after Spider-Man revealed his secret identity to Black Cat, Felicia came right back to him. Only this was when it was revealed to Spider-Man that the bad luck superpowers that she seemed to have were actually not real at all, after she got pretty badly injured fighting Dr. Octopus. This then gave Spider-Man pause as he didn't want to put Black Cat in harm's way as they fought crime, and she felt kind of inferior because she didn't have powers. So, in response, she tried to buy superpowers. Seeking out scientific superheroes to help her, she ended up working with a very shady stranger who was actually working for Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. And by experimenting on Black Cat, they activated some latent genes, which actually did give her bad luck superpowers. Blam Blams would backfire on those who tried to take shots at her. Anyone trying to sneak up on her would trip on their own feet. It was kind of cool, but unfortunately, these powers also seemed to affect her superhero boyfriend. The longer Spider-Man spent around the Black Cat, the more Felicia's bad luck powers attached a hex to Spider-Man, infecting him with bad luck that caused him to trip, fall, forget how to use his powers, and even get caught up in his own webs. In order to actually protect him, Felicia tried to break up with Peter, but like I said in the last point, Peter beat her to the punch. This next one, our second to last, is kind of hard because it's kind of difficult to blame MJ for her choices here. The current run of Spider-Man comics has caused quite the angry uproar from fans, partially for the way Peter is portrayed, but also because Marvel just absolutely refuses to let him just be happy with Mary Jane Watson. The character of Paul Rabin is not a villain, but you bet your socks many fans see him as the true enemy to Peter Parker due to him being the new Mr. Steal Your Girl. So basically, at the beginning of this newest run, Spider-Man and Mary Jane get transported to an alternate dimension, with Peter eventually making it back, but Mary Jane being stuck there. Peter does everything in his power to try and rescue Mary Jane, but while this only takes him a couple of days, in this alternate reality, it's actually been 4 whole years. In those 4 years, Mary Jane had met and fallen in love with Paul Rabin, and they even had 2 children together. Needless to say, when she finally gets rescued and comes back to Earth 616 with Paul and kids in tow, she doesn't want to just abandon this new life and go back to Peter. It's utterly heartbreaking for the wall crawler, and God, I hate it. Just let them be happy. But finally, as I said earlier on this list, Gwen Stacy was arguably the greatest love in Peter Parker's life, and while Marvel hasn't really resurrected her at all in order to respect the story that she passed away in, they seem to have no problem taking her name, dragging it through the mud, throwing it in a sack, and beating it with a hammer. While the Sins Past storyline was eventually sort of retconned and is pretty much entirely forgotten by the stories that came after it and the fans, it still happened, and that is sin enough for us to talk about. This is the story where it was revealed that Gwen Stacy had actually had an affair with Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. And if that weren't bad enough, the affair resulted in Gwen and Norman having children together. 2 twins that were raised in secret by Osborn. These twins, the affair, and Gwen threatening to not allow Norman to see those twins became the new reason why the Green Goblin orchestrated the passing of Gwen Stacy way back in the day. And then, those 2 twins, yeah, they ended up gaining superpowers thanks to Osborn's altered DNA and growing up extremely fast to become the same age as Peter Parker himself. The twins were then deceived by Osborn into thinking that Peter Parker was their real father and was responsible for their mother's death, and so they struck out to try and bring him down. It was all incredibly dumb and unnecessary and almost destroyed the character of Gwen Stacy.
In at 10, Mary Jane Watson. After several attempts by Aunt May to bring Peter and MJ together, Mary Jane finally visited Peter's home. However, Spider-Man was away fighting the Spider Slayer robots at the moment. In her visit, she encountered both Betty Brant and Liz Allen, both also competing for Peter's affections. They were captivated by Mary Jane's beauty. Like her mother and sister, Mary Jane had a passion for the performing arts as well. She aspired for a career on Broadway or in film, and she excelled in high school productions. Eventually, Peter and Mary Jane got married on the front steps of New York City Hall, with her uncle, not his, because his is dead, Judge Spencer Watson residing over the ceremony. Later, Peter faced a challenging quest to save Aunt May's life after she was shot, which was a shot that was intended for him, but seeking the help of Doctor Strange, they realized that not even magic could cure her, because, you know, she was basically already in the grave. Peter appealed to Tony Stark for help, and he was sent to like $2 million to cover hospital fees, but that wasn't gonna be enough. So Peter sold his marriage to MJ to Mephisto to save his aunt, who has been elderly since the 60s and beyond even the point of magic saving her. Dude, let it go. In at 9, Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker were classmates at Empire State University. Initially distant due to Peter's preoccupation, with being Spider-Man, as time passed, they developed a romantic connection. Gwen was a science major who admired Peter's intellect and unique personality, unique air quotes, but she became Peter's first true love. Tragically though, Gwen was ambushed by the Green Goblin, who sought to lure Spider-Man into a trap. He kidnapped her and took her to the Brooklyn Bridge. In a fierce battle, Spider-Man tried to save her, but he was weakened due to an illness. He was sick at the time because, Green Goblin has the perfect timing. And then when Green Goblin pushed Gwen off the bridge, Spider-Man managed to catch her with a web, but the sudden stop broke her neck. Probably the most realistic moment in Spider-Man comic books of being caught by a web. Despite being alive during the battle, yeah, she was hanging there, her neck was broken, she ended up passing away due to suffocation, leading her to feel betrayed because, she had only now found out Spider-Man's identity, even though she had been dating Peter. So yeah, that's kind of messed up. Gwen Stacy's death became one of the most heart-wrenching and pivotal moments in Spider-Man's life though, leaving a lasting impact on both the hero and the readers and just, every other Spider-Man media ever. Sorry Andrew, I guess you literally couldn't save her. It was written in the stars. It was a canon event. And it ate Anna Marconi. Speaking of a version of Spider-Man that's not the mainstream one, you know, Andrew Garfield, let's discuss the Superior Spider-Man and his fascination with Anna Marconi. Superior Spider-Man is actually Otto Octavius, who prior to the Superior Spider-Man storyline had brain swapped with Peter. Yet a piece of Peter was still there in his own body. I mean, I'd hope so, because you know, it's a freaking brain swap. That's kind of weird to begin with. Who eventually ended up convincing Otto to be a hero, although he was a darker one. Doc Ock was up to some really shady stuff while pretending to be Peter as well. Since Peter was young, handsome, and in shape, he had actual women in his life. So Otto tried his luck at getting Mary Jane to sleep with him, but failed miserably, thank the Lord. So when things weren't going well, he went to Anna Marconi, whom Otto Peter started dating. She had no idea what the real situation was, because I mean, if he had said anything, she probably would have had him committed. And while it's unclear if they ever like hopped on the good foot and did the bad thing, to quote Austin Powers, it's obvious that things were at least going in that direction. Okay, Otto was in love with her, which was a surprise since he decided to give Peter back his body to save her. But still, it's still a horrific story and like immoral in the highest order. But hey, it's a Spider-Man love interest, so there you go. It belongs on this list. Jesus Christ. And at 7, Carly Cooper. Man, Peter Parker, Carly Cooper, what is with the alliteration in Marvel Comics? Carly and Peter dated for a brief time, with Carly breaking up with him after finding out that he was Spider-Man. In spite of their past relationship though, Carly helped Peter track down the Vultures, and their leader, the original Vulture, well, the new Vultures. It was like a gang of them, and their leader, who was Adrian Toomes. Afterwards, Carly dated Detective Walker Bolt up until his death, and when Dr. Octopus switched minds with Spider-Man, Carly was the only person to be told by Doc Ock that he was actually Peter Parker moments before his death. So like the Doc Ock body was actually Peter, right? So Carly was the only one who knew that. Or maybe it was that Doc Ock told her that he was in Peter's body before Doc Ock died. I'm not exactly sure, I'm a bit hazy on the details. Anyways, Carly began to investigate if what she was told was true, and it was. With assistance from Yuri Watanabe, she was able to confirm that Otto was in possession of Peter's body and that Peter had died. She visited his grave, but was surprised when it caved in, revealing that the body had been secretly exhumed. Carly was then ambushed and taken to the Goblin Underground, where she was interrogated about Spider-Man's true identity, but hey, they still dated, it still counts, it's going on the list. Alright, I'm going weird with this. I'm not gonna go everyone that everyone already knows. I'm gonna make you think. And at 6, Silver Sable. After her mother was killed in a bombing, Silver implored her father to teach her how to avenge her mother's death. Despite his initial reluctance, Silver's father eventually saw her potential and started training her. When he passed away, Silver took over the Wild Pack and founded Silver Sable International. She first met Spider-Man while pursuing the Black Fox, and although she nearly caught him with the help of the New York City police, Spider-Man's actions inadvertently interfered. Silver Sable possesses an indomitable will and is able to resist like a worldwide psychic manipulation from the goddess. She is also very skilled in hand-to-hand combat, martial arts, marksmanship, sword fighting, and gymnastics. Attaboy Peter. And she's also an expert strategist and leader, capable of quickly assessing the strengths and weaknesses of opponents. Silver Sable has even managed to hold her own against the Punisher, but yeah, her and Spider-Man dated. Halfway through at number 5, Betty Brant. Now, Betty got married in Amazing Spider-Man number 156 and then headed off to Paris for a honeymoon that doubled as a work assignment for her new husband, reporter Ned Leeds. However, in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 183, we see Peter propose to Mary Jane and her turn him down, which puts him in a pretty dark place. Wonder why? Which means that when Betty shows up in Peter's apartment in Amazing Spider-Man number 184, there are going to be some issues. However, Betty claims that she has left Ned on their honeymoon while also on assignment apartment together. But here's the biggest kicker. She never told Ned that she was leaving him. Yeah. And then she still intends on sparking a romantic relationship with Peter. He ends up shutting her down in number 186, telling her that he can't be with her, but she doesn't take no for an answer, and in issue 187, she makes her own move and just goes for the kiss, saying, "Shut up darling, just kiss me." The next panel then cuts to a few hours later, which sparks the debate whether he and Betty ended up bumping more than just their lips, and then Ned ends up threatening to kill Peter if he doesn't stay out of Betty's life. But hey, it's still a thing, and I mean it's a messed up thing, but it still happened. Yikes. Speaking of messed up, in it for Sarah Stacy. Look, after learning that your father isn't actually your father, but rather your mother's ex, who she cheated on with his worst enemy, what do you think that you would do? Also, you're aging more rapidly because your real father has some form of goblin serum in his system that somehow passed on to you, but you only age up physically, meaning that you're mentally 10 with the body of an adult. Yeah, you might want to skip this number, since Pete and Sarah get closer after fighting off dealers in Paris, because she also has superpowers, because of course she does. This is made even worse, because they're in Paris without MJ, who Peter didn't bring for whatever reason, but the thing is, Peter thinks that it's entirely platonic. Yeah, this just goes to show that if your partner thinks someone is trying to get with you, you should probably listen, because lo and behold, Sarah ends up planting one on her almost dad, just as MJ shows up for a surprise visit. Yeah, I think the name of this storyline, which is since remembered, is way too fitting and definitely going to be seared into my brain now. God damn it. Getting close to the end in number 3, Cindy Moon. 13 years after her imprisonment, Cindy's story came to light when the orb revealed the Watcher's secrets to the world. Spider-Man, now aware of her existence, sought to free her. Cindy warned him about the danger of Moreland, but he opened the door anyway. Feeling doomed by this decision, she ended up attacking him, but learned that Moreland was already dead. Grateful for her freedom, Cindy donned an improvised costume made of webs and adopted the name of Silk. She sought to reconnect with her parents, and Spider-Man promised to help her search for him. As they spent time together, a deep bond formed between Spider-Man and Silk, and they began an intimate relationship. And I mean, that kind of makes sense given that, you know, you're both spider powered, so yeah. And this surprised Anna, Peter's roommate, who felt threatened by Cindy's presence, although I don't really understand that because he's just your roommate. After an initial confrontation, Cindy apologized and tried to mend their relationship, but it didn't work, obviously, as you all know. But hey, that's like number 2 in like my personal, like, dude should have been with them instead of MJ, that Cindy's number 2. But ultimately in number 2, Kitty Pryde. In Operation Zero Tolerance's Shadowcat subfile 604842, it was revealed that Catherine Pryde was abducted as a baby by a Neo and replaced with another baby who grew up as Kitty Pryde, also known as Shadowcat of the X-Men. Despite encountering many similar holograms, the X-Men dismissed them as attempts to disturb them, but Charles Xavier eventually located Kitty and sought to recruit her for his school as a new X-Men member. Blah blah blah, things go on, she ends up meeting Spider-Man, they start dating. Yes, this is actually a thing. Spider-Man dated Kitty Pryde, and that's pretty dope actually. I don't know why I like this so much. Like, I put it at number 2 because I just like the fact that they dated, but hey, that's not the only person that Kitty's dated either. She crossed paths with the Guardians of the Galaxy when they rescued a young Jean Grey, and then she ended up dating and getting engaged to Star-Lord. But hey, she dated Peter before that, so you know what? That's the OTP, as the kids used to say. And finally, in number 1, Felicia Hardy. Look, I have a whole spiel about who Felicia Hardy is, but we all know the Black Cat, and I'm going to say it. Peter should have been with Felicia. Okay, I get that she's like a pseudo criminal, but like, dude, look at the Spider-Man PS4 game. MJ is so incredibly toxic in that game, but then Felicia shows up and you're just like, why am I not here? Spider-Man Web of Shadows, you choose Felicia every damn time. Okay, I don't care if it means I'm evil, I don't care, like, I don't care about the black suit, I just want Felicia. I cosplay Spider-Man so that I can find someone at a convention who is cosplaying Felicia Hardy, and then I can just start a life with them, okay? Like, come on. I don't need to say anything else. I don't need to talk about all of this because it's Felicia. He should have done it. He should have hit it. And you know what? When you're going through that DLC and you're like, oh crap, does Peter have a kid with Felicia? You know what? I was disappointed that he didn't. And you know what? I'm sure he was too. Thanks for watching.
Number 10, Liz Allen. Have you ever been in that kind of friend group where just like everyone dates everyone? I know I have, and so has Peter Parker apparently. Liz Allen is more famously known as the romantic partner and later wife of Harry Osborn, Peter Parker's best friend and also the son of the villain Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn. Liz also at one point dated another of Peter's good friends who used to pick on Peter actually in the past, Flash Thompson. But Liz and Peter have never dated. Peter at one point tutored Liz, and she did for a while have a crush on him. When she was dating Flash, Pete was actually dating Betty. Seriously, everyone had some kind of romantic connection to everyone in this friend group. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that like button. Number 9, Kitty Pryde. In the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, a young Kitty and Peter had a budding romance that many were fans of. The two got together after ending relationships with their partners, Kitty breaking up with Iceman and Peter breaking up with Mary Jane. Most of their time together was spent taking down criminals, and as such, Kitty was forced to wear a masked costume to prevent anyone from piecing together Spider-Man's secret identity. These two were super cute together, as both of them are kind of awkward teens, but also both are endearing and sweet. Like with most of Peter's relationships, his need to protect his secret identity ended up being the nail in the coffin for him and Kitty. This also meant that the two had to keep their romantic relationship secret, lest people somehow use that to figure out that Kitty and Peter were the pair of masked vigilantes running around New York fighting crime together. Though in the end, it was Peter getting back with his often more well-known partner, Mary Jane, that really ended their relationship here. Even after Peter seemingly dies in the Ultimate Universe though, it was revealed that Kitty Pryde never really stopped having feelings for Peter, even thinking on what their life would have been like into the future had they stayed together. Number 8, Silk. Sometimes I wish I could say that I didn't know about this one, but alas, I do. However, since this relationship is not as popularized in media, it's likely that there are quite a few out there who have actually never heard of it before. I'm sorry to burst that bubble, but here we go. Who is Silk? She is Cindy Moon. I actually love her as a character, but find her initial relationship with Spider-Man to be downright weird and also somewhat problematic. These two instantly had a very magnetic and physical attraction to one another. Spider-Man learned that Cindy Moon was another spider person / what is known as a spider totem who had been holed up in a bunker for years in order to protect her from the villain Morlun. He freed Cindy from the bunker. I mean, she could have left at any time really, but she didn't because, well, she knew what the risk would be, by giving her the information that Morlun had been defeated and was dead. Both immediately had a strong and unexplainable attraction to one another, which could in theory have been caused by the fact that it was revealed they were both bitten by the same radioactive spider, which both granted them their abilities. Cindy Moon retroactively made her first appearance way back when Peter got his powers. This moment was revisited during her first official appearance in 2014's Amazing Spider-Man series. She and Peter had a very physical attraction to one another during their time together, making their relationship one of the most awkward ones I have ever read. Although this has since been corrected and they are no longer together, Silk is still considered to be an ally of Peter's today. Number 7, Starling. Who is Starling? Well, she's actually the unknown daughter of Adrian Toomes, the villain known as the Vulture. Her father was Frankie Toomes, who ended up abandoning her and her mom. Frankie, of course, is the son of Adrian, but when he stepped out, her grandfather, the Vulture, stepped up and helped to provide for Tiana, who would go on to become the vigilante known as Starling, and her mom, Lenora. Tiana made her first appearance in Miles Morales' Spider-Man issue number 5 in 2019. She has appeared a few times since then and is known for being one of Miles' main love interests. When most people think of Miles Morales in love, they think of his multiversal relationship with Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider as she's known now, the alternate Gwen Stacy from another reality. But during his time on Earth 616, he does eventually end up finding someone he likes from his new home reality as well. And of course, that someone is Tiana. Number 6, Betty Brant. Betty Brant was the secretary of J. Jonah Jameson, and she met Peter through their jobs at the Daily Bugle. After Peter saves Betty's life while disguised as Spider-Man, he realizes he has feelings for her. They dated but broke up because Betty suspected Peter had feelings for a classmate. This ended up being a misunderstanding in the end, but it still caused the pair to go their separate ways. However, Betty remained close friends with Peter, eventually marrying his coworker, Ned Leeds. Despite no longer being together, Betty has always considered Peter to be one of her best and most reliable friends, often turning to him for life advice feelings and reaching out when she is in need of support. Number 5. Carly Cooper. Carly Cooper might be well known to fans who have read all of the Spider-Man comics, but to fans who are more casual, this is not a name you will probably recognize. After MJ and Peter's marriage was over and done with, Peter eventually did move on. Carly was one of the first people he dated after he and MJ had gone their separate ways. Carly was a forensic specialist. The relationship was somewhat slow to start, with them going on a few dates here and there pretty casually, before finally Peter committed to starting a new relationship with Carly. Number 4. Silver Sable. These two never really got a chance to explore a relationship in the comics, but Silver Sable is definitely a love interest that has become popular with fans, in terms of who they would like to see Peter end up with. Popular enough that she appeared in the PS4 Spider-Man game DLC content Silver Lining, where sparks flew between the two of them. In the comics, Silver Sable is a well-trained mercenary and owner of the company Silver Sable International. Silver Sablanova is from the small fictional Eastern European country of Simkaria, and is known for being an ally of Spider-Man. Silver Sable only ever really flirted with Spider-Man and then revealed her feelings for him only somewhat when they both thought the world might be ending. Number 3. Captain Marvel, or as she was known then, Miss Marvel. That's right, we're talking about Carol Danvers. Peter was revealed to have had somewhat of a crush on Carol and, in the end, asked her out on a date, somewhat kinda unintentionally, in the classic awkward Peter Parker fashion. The date started out super awkward, but by the end I would say was pretty successful, with both of the heroes revealing that they had been putting on appearances in an attempt to kinda impress one another, and finally just relaxing, letting down their guards, and revealing their true selves. These two might seem weird together on paper, but I actually think they could make for a pretty cute couple, as long as they were both willing to share their most authentic self with one another. Because I mean really, that's the only thing that messed up their date. They actually have a lot in common, I think. Number 2. Mockingbird. Pretty weird to think that Hawkeye's wife once dated Spider-Man, but yeah, that's true. Also, I almost just called him Hawkeye. You know you've been reading too much of the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye when. Although, then again, can you ever read too much of the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run? I don't think you can. Also, if you haven't checked out that series yet with David Aja's brilliant art, I highly recommend you do that. It's so good. Mockingbird and Peter teamed up a few times before they got together. While I feel like Bobby is a good match for Spider-Man in the sense that she can take care of herself, she's not as down to earth as some of his other love interests and doesn't fit as well with his often wisecracking attitude. So the pair didn't last too long in comparison to some of the other more well-known relationships for Spider-Man. Number 1. Kate Bishop. When you think of Spider-Man and romance, Kate Bishop is not usually the name that comes to your mind. But for this Hawkeye connection, we are not talking about someone that Clint Barton previously dated, but instead his protege, who is also known as Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. Well, at least that's how she's known in the main continuity. This version of Kate Bishop is actually not Hawkeye, hailing from the alternate reality of Earth 1610, so an alternate version of Kate Bishop. Here she ends up dating Miles Morales' Spider-Man, at least until her parents are revealed to be evil and basically kidnap him. That'll ruin a relationship, am I right?